Hello, this is my video, 222 autos, and today we'll be looking at the Mark III Hunter and from Ruger, and also the Browning Buckmark. So that's 222 autos, and just as a warning, that is the Naboo 14th year pistol, or rather a drawing of one. This was used by the Japanese Army during World War II, and the reason it's significant for our .22 caliber discussion today is because it is the forerunner, the design inspiration for what is now known as the Ruger Mark series of pistols. I'm using the 20th Century Small Arms picture book by Chris McNabb. It was a Christmas present from my sister. Before we get to the Mark III and the Browning Buckmark, as well as a couple others, I'm going to do an update on this guy. Is it a guy? Are guns masculine? In most languages, most things are masculine or feminine. This, you may recognize it from part one of my previous video, which is called the response video to Nuttin' Fancy's revolver porn. I'm not working off a script, again, obviously. And I mentioned that I didn't have it to show you because it was on consignment at the gun shop. Well, after it sat there with no offers for a couple months, I decided I didn't really want to sell it after all. This is a heavy gun. There is the, let's see if that's coming into focus. Yeah, there's this. It does not have a muzzle crown, but, you know, I don't think that certainly doesn't seem to detract from its accuracy. It's a heavy gun. I mean, this thing weighs, one stainless steel K-frame. I don't have a scale, but it's probably about 2 pounds anyway. And I have the red dot sight on it. This one weighs hardly anything. These are the Fast Fire 2 from Burris. This one has the on-off switch. It has the cover, just, you know, for protection when it's not being shot. Here's another one here that I have for the Browning Buckmark, marked BM to, you know, indicate my juvenile sense of humor. So that one goes on the Browning Buckmark. Yeah, but they weigh hardly anything, and that's what I like about them. It goes on with one screw, so if you have to take it off, it'll be maybe not perfect, but pretty close to zero if you put it back on again. The patridge sights that it came with are easier to get an accurate shot with them than it is for the red dot sight. But I've got other 22s with open sights on it, and I want some to have dot sights because I can shoot with both eyes open in a not terribly lit indoor shooting range. I usually shoot 2-inch targets at 30 yards, often seated. One little pet peeve I have about people talking about red dot sights is they say that there's zero magnification. They aren't. Zero magnification is, I can't even say it's invisibility because it's actually a mathematical error. It's a nonsensical mathematical expression. See, we have these things in amateur astronomy too, and they're usually called either reflex finders or unit finders. Unit because they have a magnification factor of 1. It's a 1x, not a 0x. Length divided by 0, eyepiece focal length equals, and you get that little e. That means you messed up. That means you can't do what you're asking it to do, and seriously, if you do it too many times, you're going to tear a hole in the fabric of the universe, and we don't want that, because we don't know what kind of weird multi-dimensional shit is going to come out of it. So that's it for the Model 16 for now. This is a great revolver. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't sell it. Figured I had to replace the one revolver with another one. I was suffering from a condition called being an idiot. The Marlin 1894 Cowboy Limited and 357 Magnum comes immediately to mind. That was stupid. So, now on to the stars of this show.
Mỗi mới còn nhiều.
Ruger Mark III and the Browning Buckmark. So, the Browning Buckmark, let's go to this one first, because I like to have 5 loaded magazines when I go to the range, especially if I'm there by the hour, but also to reduce lead exposure. If I'm at a range shooting, I want to shoot, not be paying for minutes to reload. You know, if you're renting it by the hour, it's best to get there with a bunch of magazines than to have to keep reloading the same few. Reliability, very, very good. For 22, it's as good as you can expect. This Buckmark is it's a very nice gun. That doesn't mean a whole lot. By the way, I've safety checked all these ahead of time. I just cleaned this one, so spare me. This has a sliding bolt. Not unlike the Smith & Wesson Model 41. I used to have one of those. A Smith & Wesson Model 41. I had actually, and I'll talk about it when I get to the Mark III because there's a funny story that goes with it. But it's similar to that. The only problem is, and I'll show you the photos in a minute, because I took it apart and took photos while I was cleaning it. The only problem with this is that there's a post back here. There's a post that goes right through the bolt and into the bottom part here, which means, so when you take it apart, that post is in the way. So unless you want to unship the barrel every time, you can't clean it from the breech. You have to clean it from the muzzle unless you're using one of those god-awful bore snakes. Now, this one did not come with a scope rail on top, this Picatinny rail. I actually added this. This is I don't know if you can see it, but it's a Tactical Solutions top strap for the Buckmark. And the replacement top strap came with rear sights already on it that are very similar to the factory sights, which is good because the factory sights are good. Accuracy, well, we're going to get the targets in a few minutes, but it's pretty accurate. Also, I really like these rubber grips. There's a whole bunch of different variations of the Buckmark. This one has kind of like not a soft rubber, but not really a hard rubber either. You know, it feels like the Pachmayr rubber. If you have a Pachmayr grip on anything, it kind of feels like that, and it's just a really comfortable grip. It has the gold-colored. Pretty sure it's not real gold, but the gold-colored trigger, which is nice. You know, Partridge front sight, that's nice too. And, you know, the American-style magazine release, which is also nice. It does, of course, for safety features, it has a manual safety, and it has the beloved magazine disconnect. I know how enthusiastic we all are about the magazine disconnect safety, and you'll be glad to know that except for the revolver I just showed you, both of the pistols that I'm reviewing today have it. Who fucking rah. So I guess they're nice as a bug-out bag survival gun, because you can shoot rodents and eat them. So that's that. The field strip, and again, I'll show you this in the pictures, but basically you need an Allen key to take these off. You're supposed to be able to unship the barrel to clean it from the breech, and there's another set screw here, Allen key set screw, but it is really tight, and I have never been able to get the front off, the barrel and chamber off for cleaning it. I have a set of ratcheting screwdriver bits that I got from Midway. They were Smith & Wesson brand, and it was basically every screwdriver bit you'll ever need to gunsmithing. And I took the one that fits in here, and I put, to get some leverage, I put the right size open wrench on it, and I broke the freaking bit trying to get it off. Now, composition-wise, Barrel steel, of course, it has to be. But the frame is aluminum, or, alloy. So, I mean, I don't want to put too much pressure on it. It just wasn't worth getting it off. If it, what if I broke the screw head? Still, it's accurate. It's well balanced. It's full up. It's well balanced, and it's a bull barrel, so it's very, very slightly heavy. Not to a point where it's a complaint. Not even for me. I don't like front heavy guns. Which is why I was thinking of selling that 617 that I showed you earlier, because of that full underlug. I still don't like front-heavy guns. I'm kind of making an exception with that revolver because it's so awesome in every other way. Over the years, I've had maybe a few failures to eject from it, but generally speaking, it's very reliable. Magazines are nice. They're made out of steel. Thumb thing here is pretty easy, not like on a Mark III. So it's not too bad for your thumb, although I still usually use a plastic depressor like from Adco or something when I'm loading these 10-shot 2 caliber 22 long rifle. Can you fucking believe the state of New York says you can only put 7 rounds in this thing? I mean, what the hell? I'm not universally against all gun control regulations, but New York and California especially have really gone overboard, and so they can say they're doing something despite the unwillingness of the federal government to have universal background checks. I mean, it's not going to prevent them from importing what to New Yorkers would be illegal guns from Georgia or some other state. Anyway, so yeah, this is a really nice gun. The trigger's good. It's good. It's really good for a 22, and it's just good generally. So I don't have a whole lot of complaints except for the takedown. You have to take screws down, and then you have to clean it from the breech. Also, there's a nylon recoil buffer inside here, so you have to keep your eye out. Well, one, so you don't lose it when you take this apart, and also you keep an eye on it in case it breaks or wears out. I said a couple of critical things in my last movie about Ruger triggers. I was mostly talking about the double action revolvers. The Ruger trigger on this is really good. I know some people, they get a Ruger anything and the first thing they do is swap out the trigger. I have no reason to do it on this gun. Now granted, I'm not trigger sensitive, I'm not somebody who has to have the best possible trigger. I have the factory Ruger trigger in my 1022. I've got the factory trigger in my Beretta CX4 Storm, which is kind of garbage. Yeah, it's alright for me. This gun came with this scope mount. It's aluminum. It's more or less the same color as the gun. This is a stainless steel gun. The whole tube from front to back is stainless steel. The frame is stainless steel, and it weighs a lot. I'm not going to lie to you. This is a heavy gun. If you're weight sensitive, you're not going to like this. If you're looking for a gun to carry around with you for hours on end, you might want to look at the SR22, which is mostly polymer, or the Walther P22. Let's see, how are they compared to each other? Not light, but not really too heavy. I don't know. I believe this one's heavier just because it's a bigger barrel and it's all steel, but it's balanced so well. So I've got the red dot sight on it, again, for shooting at the indoor range. It came with these Coco Bolo, is that how you pronounce it? Exotic South American hardwood. half checkered. I would have preferred if they were all checkered. This looks better, of course. But I took them off, one, because I didn't want to knacker them up. I mean, this is not a showpiece gun. It's a Ruger. Yeah, these are Hogue monogrips with the thumb the thumb rest on the left side. So they're for right-handed. This one is for right-handed shooters only, although the factory grips were ambidextrous. Like the Browning Buckmark, it also has the much-loved magazine disconnect safety, which creates even more of a problem on this gun, because when you're taking it apart or putting it together, there are times where you have to release the hammer, and you can only do it with the magazine in there. And then you have to take the magazine out so you can get the bolt out. You have to screw around with this thing on the back. Once you get used to it, though, it's not that big of a deal. Let me see. What can I use to undo it? Oh, here's an old fork. So, to take it apart, you do that. You open that up. You check to make sure there's a little tab in there that flops around. You want to make sure that it's away from the crossbar and the handle. Otherwise, it'll get hung up on that. And the trick for these Mark II, Mark IIIs, takedowns, and reassemblies all has to do with the position of that stupid little metal tab. And then you pull it out thus. Something in there to move the little tab thing. I'll show it to you if I can ever get this damn thing out. Yeah, and that's what's holding it up. There we go. You have to push the hammer up a little bit to get it out. And now this slides right out. You do not have to remove the receiver from the grip handle. You just don't. There's no reason on earth to do that unless you really want to get in and clean those trigger parts. I use an aerosol spray to do that, so there's no reason to take it apart. So that alone makes it easier to take apart than you might have thought it was. And then this cylindrical shaped bolt. So now you slide this back in, maybe. You got to make sure the hammer is down, and it's this thing. I don't know if you can see it. It's that little short vertical metal tab there. Yeah, see, there's like a little short metal tab behind that handle. That's what you have to watch for. That has to not get hung up on that metal crossbar that's like right below it. I don't know if you can see it, but you can see it in real life. So now with that forward of the crossbar, you can push the hammer is down, and you can put that back in. And now you want to get that out of the way, that tab thing. So you're gonna stick an object up to where the hammer is, push it out of the way, and make sure that tab there, well, folds forward-ish. Well, you don't want it too far forward because then it'll get caught on this thing. So, damn stand. See, I know, I'll use the aluminum camera stand that my great-grandfather gave me that he bought in like 1945. Well, it has a hard time holding the camera left and right, in its left and right axis. So there it's back in. Double check that stupid tab is there because it goes under this thing. Well, you don't really have to, I don't think. No, you don't. And there we go. All back together. For .22 caliber, Ruger has it all over the other guys. Yeah, there's the Browning Buckmark, which I just showed you, which is my second favorite semi-auto .22 caliber pistol. The Smith & Wesson has a new model out. I think it's called the Victory. They also had the Smith & Wesson 22. The awesome Smith & Wesson Model 41 asterisk. A while ago, like I want to say maybe in 08 or 09, I had actually sold this consignment, same shop I bought it. I sold this and a 10-shot 4-inch Model 617 Smith & Wesson revolver in order to buy a Smith & Wesson Model 41 5-inch barrel. It was very durable, very old-fashioned, used for training purposes by the United States Army. They were made basically one at a time at the Holton, Maine facility for Smith & Wesson. They came with a hardwood grip, and it was exceptionally accurate, exceptionally good shooter. Except, it's almost as much of a pain in the ass to clean as this one. And it was really finicky about ammunition. The one I had, basically it liked CCI standard velocity, and that was it. It would do the mini mags, but some others, they'd get hung up in there. Or they'd misfeed, had a lot of misfeeds. It really just liked the CCI standard. As good as the grips were, I found them a little tiring after a while. I just prefer rubber grips. And for the Model 41, there were none available, period. If you have a gun that costs $1,000 and you're not in love with it, then you sell it. By coincidence, the guy I sold this to had gotten sick of it. He was on a Glock fix and was selling his non-Glocks to buy Glocks. So I bought it from him. It came with 6 different light pipes, green and red, in 2 different diameters. Let's pretend his name's Harvey. So after I bought it, I saw Harvey in the shop because, like I said, he's a regular there too. I said, Harvey, look what I just bought. Can you believe that somebody was willing to part with this? And he just laughed and said, yeah, he could believe it. I mean, because I had been willing to part with it, and then he had been willing to part with it. But I'm glad I got it back. I mean, weird story. You know, the once and future pistol. And right now, for automatic 22s, this one is my all-time favorite. This one has the magazine loaded indicator. I don't want to say it's 100% useless, but it's probably like 98% useless. I don't like it. Nobody likes it. We like it about as much as we like the magazine disconnect safety. And although that maybe makes sense on a purely recreational pistol, I still don't like it, and I hate it on fighting pistols. Loaded chamber indicator was just so popular that Ruger left it out of its Mark IV. These two, which do I like better? Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to look at the magazine. Browning magazines are a little bit nicer than the Rugers. This one is a Ruger. It's got the red eagle on the bottom. So yeah, you got this nice knob here. Whereas on here you have like a little disc with like circular serrations in it. I mean, yeah, you certainly can load it with just your thumb, but it really is a pain after a while. And this will shoot just about anything. It will shoot high velocity copper coated. It'll shoot high velocity plain lead. It'll shoot hollow point, round nose. It'll shoot standard velocity. I don't think I've shot any standard velocity hollow point in a long time, so I can't really speak to that. And all kinds of brands. You don't have to, it's mini mags or nothing. This will shoot anything. One of the main reasons I bought it back from the guy I sold it to was because it will shoot anything. Unlike the Smith & Wesson Model 41, it's a heavy gun, but very well balanced. It's better balanced than the shorter bull barrel version because of the fluting. It's a long barrel, it's a bull barrel, but it's not heavy. Ruger has leather holsters available for their pistols, and I bought one for the Mark III before I got a sight for it. It's obviously not going to fit with the sight on it, and let me see if it'll even fit with the sight rail. Yeah, maybe. It looks like you can get it in there with the sight rail on it. So that's good. So, and what's nice about this, about the rail, is that if you take the sight off, the electronic sight off, you can use the open sights very easily. So if you want to carry this around for hunting or for pest control or plinking, You can do it. It fits better, obviously, without this rail on it. I bought this one, and not a Mark II. I bought it about when the Mark IIs were like, there were still of them coming out new, and these had just gotten started. I liked the Hunter model, so I went with the Mark III. So I wish I had a Mark II here that I could compare it with, but I didn't really have any reason to buy one after getting this one. So, you know what? Screw reality. So I'm just going to take this magic wand, which is a magic wand and not a sharpening rod. Just try and use some of that trick photography magic here. Alakazam. Oh, ha! Hey, it worked. Okay. The Mark II is a little bit different than the Mark III. First of all, this is the standard model with the tapered barrel and the fixed sights. It's a bit lighter than that one just because the barrel's shorter and narrower. Let's see, it has squared off ears, you know, the little bolt grips here. It has the standard plastic checkered handles, which are very grippy. They're very good. There's really no reason to replace them with the, you know, in the 1980s when I was when I was like 19, I went into a gun shop called just the Gun Room, and I saw one of these there and thought it was just the coolest thing. It's called Ruger, and it looks like a Luger, which rhymes. Same basic handle, and I know this part's different, but similar barrel. So I thought they were very cool, and I wanted one, but I couldn't afford it, and I was living with my mother at the time, and she wouldn't let me bring one in the, you know, any kind of firearm in the house because she was afraid I was going to shoot my sister. I think she was really afraid I was going to shoot her. Yeah, it was not a happy time. Anyway, so this... it's very sad, but this does not actually have a magazine disconnect safety. I know we would all miss that tremendously. First of all, the magazine release is down here and not there. It's at the bottom. It's the European style. And this is a Mekgar magazine. They work just as well as the factory ones. In fact, I think they are the factory ones. My father-in-law actually gave this to me, so I never did buy one. I would carry this if I wanted to go with something really small and an automatic. This weighs more than you think, but not a lot. It's got a aluminum frame, grip frame, with a steel slide. This is the Beretta Jaguar. I don't know if it's the Model 70, but it's in the 70 series. So I don't know if it's like 70, 71 or whatever, but it's the Beretta Jaguar 22 caliber long rifle, 5-inch target barrel. So this is their target model 22 from, you know, the 1960s. So accuracy-wise, how does it compare to the two guns I just showed you? Not even close. This is not... it's an accurate gun, but you really have to pay attention to get off an accurate shot. It's got this smallish blade front sight, and it's got a very small notch for the rear sights. I guess you can wind drift it, but no elevation adjustment. I bought this for a really low price. It was on consignment, and oh, look, there's no magazine in it. No magazine safety, disconnect safety, whatever. It shoots these 8-round magazines. This is the factory magazine that came with it. It only came with one. It's kind of a bear to reload. And the ADCO loading thumb saver things, whatever you want to call it, tabs, the ones that are for Smith & Wesson work on this. By the way, the Browning Buckmark also takes the Smith & Wesson ADCO suppressor thing. The Ruger takes the one made for Ruger. These I ordered special. No, I'm sorry, this is the factory model. It's the one with the nice foot thing. That's the factory model. So this is the Beretta factory model. And then I ordered these two from a magazine manufacturer with the unfortunate name of Triple K. I've heard mixed reviews about Triple K magazines. These worked very well. The ones for the Beretta Jaguar worked very well, 22 caliber. So here's the original box. Italian Army, or the Army of Italy. Came here, and it also came with the factory magazine. This is the Triple K magazine. Some kind of certificate with the model number on it. Not sure why that bit's torn off, though. Apparently unused. A cleaning brush for it. And a box of Federal high-power ammunition that I've not shot. I don't know if this is the box that came with the gun or if somebody replaced the ones that came with the gun. I mean, how cool is that? You buy a gun and you get a box of ammunition with it in the case. I could use this as a compact alternative Mark III if I ever really had to. I am not going to sell this one. This is too cool of a collectible, even though I very rarely shoot it. I don't usually keep targets, take them home with me because they take up space. I'd rather just take a photograph of it at the shooting range. Anyway, this is the Browning Buckmark target. This and the Mark III to the shooting range. This bottom row is with this stuff, Aquila Super Extra, which is usually pretty consistent. These are the targets that I made with the Buckmark. And these bottom two rows, up till about here maybe, are with the red dot sight attached to it. After that, I shot it with these top two rows. I shot with the open sights with the red dot sight removed, the Burris Fastfire 2. So, I mean, that's a pretty good group. I mean, usually at this distance, 10 yards, I prefer to shoot at 2-inch targets, but I have these handy, and they're good for the red dot sights because it's easy to, you know, the dot glows against the black backgrounds. This Aquila Super Extra, which is usually pretty consistent. These bottom two rows, up till about here maybe, are with the red dot sight attached to it. After that rows, I shot with the open sights with the red dot sight removed, the Burris Fastfire 2. So, I mean, that's a pretty good group. These top two rows were with open sights, and actually, these might have been as well. But, you know, they're pretty consistent with the red dot. They open up a little bit more, at least at first, with the open sights. Well, up here, I mean, those are kind of all over the place. That's really not impressive. Saying that, yeah. These two are 5 shots each. I had 2 circles left and only 1 magazine, so I split it. But down here, I mean, that's pretty good, except for that flyer, and that's really good. 10 shots, you know, 2-inch target from 30 feet. And see, I was seated when I shot these with my elbows resting on the table, but with no actual pistol rest. So to the degree that this is impressive, saying that made it a lot less impressive. But I was testing the gun, not me. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty good. And more practice would make it better. It's not an Olympic marksman by any stretch of the imagination. Here's the Mark III. Same deal. It's down here. These are the red dot sight targets, and they're not bad. Certainly not tremendous. Certainly need more practice. I mean, that one's okay. They're all inside the 2-inch circle here. Here they're all inside the 2-inch circle. Here they mostly are, except for the one flyer, all in the 2-inch circle. So actually, maybe I'm selling myself short. These aren't bad. Same here. Here I took the red dot sight off and used the high-vis iron sights, even though the high-vis tube is plastic. And the other bits are probably aluminum. Same thing with the Mark II. I had 1 magazine left and 2 circles left over. So that's them, and not really tremendous with the open sights. With the circles together, and yes, this is the excuse patrol, with the circles close together, it is, for me anyway, hard when I'm using the open sights to really isolate the one I'm shooting at, because you're focused on the front sight, and the 3-inch disc is going to be blurry, and it's going to kind of be blending into the other 3-inch discs around it. But, you know, with a scope or with a dot sight, these are really nice targets. Those are the targets. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, grape soda versus Ruger Mark III. Ta-da!